The Healthcare Security Cast is sponsored by 3D Network Technology. Reliability is our core value. Visit www.3dnetworktechnology.com. And by Genetec, delivering security strategies for healthcare. Visit Genetec, that's GENETEC.com. And by the Change Execution Group. Visit 360lifetransformations.com. Before we get into today's show, I want to invite you to connect with the Healthcare Security Cast on a new platform. It's a text-based platform called Community. To join, all you have to do is text my community number, and that number is 647-372-2042. That number again is 647-372-2042. The first message is automated. It's just to get you set up and added into the system. Everything after that will be direct engagement with me. This platform will allow you to stay up to date on everything that we're doing on the Healthcare Security Cast, as well as engage with me one-on-one. Also, as we move forward, there'll be other opportunities to connect with study groups and special interest groups. Your information is kept private, and you can opt out at any time by simply texting STOP. Again, to join, just text JOIN to 647-372-2042. That's 647-372-2042. Right now, text messages can only be received from Canada and the U.S.
Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast, the podcast dedicated to healthcare security, safety, and emergency management. If you are involved with a healthcare security program or desire to be, this podcast is for you. Join the conversation as we discuss the issues that matter to healthcare security professionals while leveraging the expertise of healthcare security thought leaders and experts in personal development. And now, here's your host, Brian Hamilton.
Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast for Thursday, September the 10th. On today's episode, we're joined by Jesse Todisco, and we'll be discussing how to take control of your finances. And now, let's get right into the show. Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast. Today, we're joined by Jesse Todisco, aka Jesse T. Jesse, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Brian, thank you so much to you and to your listeners and followers for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Now, I'm going to ask the loaded question to get started. Who is Jesse T?
Oh my goodness. The easiest way I can answer this, one of my best friends told me this in the last 12 months. He said, you're a walking contradiction. And that literally couldn't be any more accurate for so many reasons. And it's the best compliment I've ever gotten in my life.
Okay. Well, let's delve into that a little bit. So why is that, number one, why is that the best compliment you've gotten in your life, and why is it true?
I definitely, for all intents and purposes, shouldn't be here, shouldn't even be alive. I've had a lot of interesting experiences in life, and thank God that I am alive and I'm able to be of service to people from my experiences. But just a quick little overview of context, some high level bullet points. Grew up in Boston, very much a fighting town, so much so that I got bullied for years. And because I had a dad that was a 35-year heroin addict, I didn't have a role model to teach me how to stand up for myself. I didn't have that confidence. And so for years in grade school, I would get jumped on the regular. And it taught me a lot about resilience, taught me a lot about toughness. After a while, I didn't even feel it. It was just more of a mental and emotional kind of thing. And I learned early on that I needed to start standing up for myself. And alongside of that journey, the positive side of my journey as a kid was I was an entrepreneur at heart. So I had things like comic books, baseball cards that I would sell, buy and trade. I would shovel snow for money and sometimes get gypped and get hot chocolate by these cute little shrewd old ladies that would just cheat me out of my money. And then there was also, over being in front of Logan Airport in Boston, there were these times where we would run over to the airport, and through the terminals, you'll see these little carts that are called smart carts, and you can use them to move luggage around the terminals before you had the better luggage we have today. And so whenever you would return one of these smart carts to a stall, it would pop a quarter out for you. And so we would be chased through by security the whole time we were there, because we weren't supposed to be there doing it. But it was kind of fun. It was young and we were making money doing it. So I always had this entrepreneurial kind of hustle. But it came from a place of being poor, being scarcity mindset, growing up sometimes without heat in the winter or a lot of food on the table. And that really made me want to go out and learn the wisdom of finance and wealth as a young kid. And so peppered with this tough upbringing, there was this entrepreneurial spirit that drove me. And just a couple other bullet points. I've experienced death a couple times. I've held my daughter until she passed away. I held my mom until she passed away. So I really saw the importance of the value of time and understanding that we're not given anything every second as a gift. And so anything more than right now, you can't necessarily be guaranteed. So you really have to be in the present and be in the moment. And so a turning point for me was getting out of this life in Boston that I had been in and been around this tumultuous situation was joining the military. And so I joined the Navy early in the 2000s and served for a couple of years. And it set me on this trajectory of confidence that I needed. It set me on this trajectory of belief in myself and being able to outgrow some of those demons that I had been through. And it set me on this beautiful path since 2011 until now. I've been in finance. I did a pit stop running my own business for a few years. And then I've been in finance since 2011, and it's completely changed my life. And I've been able to serve people from my experiences that I've been through a lot better than most people could, because I've been able to walk through some of the same seasons of life as most people.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. So with the financial services, what is, what's the role that you're playing in that? How are you serving people?
Yeah, so that was a growth and iteration, just like everything else in my life. It's all been about experience and learning, through trial and error. And so in 2011, I started off in corporate banking. I was working for a bank doing banking and business banking and helping people with lending and deposits and cash management kind of thing. And that grew pretty quickly into a branch manager position. And then from there into a VP, which doesn't mean anything anymore in banking because everybody has that title, I feel like. So, but it was a great experience for 5 years because it taught me a lot about day-to-day cash flow and how businesses operate in the banking world. And so I had that experience. And then the next step from there was an iteration where I was a State Farm agent for about a year and a half. And so I got back into being independent. I got back into, managing my own business, which was really where I wanted to be. And what I learned pretty quickly there is it wasn't going to be long-term. And so I picked up more skills. I picked up insurance licenses. I picked up financial planning licenses, which is the path that I wanted to go down. And after a year and a half, I was like, you know what? I can do this on my own. I don't need somebody who I don't believe in front of me, giving me orders. I want to run my own business again. So I shut down the State Farm in January 2017, opened up Todisco Financial in February 2017, a month later. And for 2 years, I ran that business really successfully, where I was bringing on clients and I was helping people with their planning, but I still was limited. When you're a financial planner, you have certain licenses that you can have, and they allow you to do certain things. And my licenses kept me limited to only marketing certain products and services. And it also didn't align me perfectly with my clients because I was selling products and services on a commission. And so anytime you're selling a product and service on commission in the financial services space, not that this happened to me personally, but there are some people that may question if that is better for the client or better for the financial planner in terms of the sale that you're making.
Right.
Wanted to remove that altogether. And I did. And I dropped all the licenses I accumulated through the years, which are like 6 or 7 licenses, to only focus on a Series 65, which meant I'm a full-blown investment advisor. I'm a fiduciary. I don't take any money or any commissions. I don't sell products and services. I completely align with my clients' goals. So just to give you that context, what I do now is I manage clients' portfolios, manage their investments. But the biggest thing I do with my clients is I manage their financial planning. So anywhere where life intersects with money, anywhere they need to make a financially sound decision of how to keep more of their money, make more of their money, or the best thing is to stop trading time for money, I can teach them how to do that. Entrepreneurs and executives.
All right. Now, what are some of the, what are some of the common pitfalls that you see with people when, they first get introduced to you as a client?
Oh man, I really do a good job of treating my clients like family, and I really put them on a pedestal. And so my whole belief structure in my mind when I deal with my clients is removing friction from their lives. So for me, I've changed my mindset on how I date my clients in a sense. When I start meeting them, I start to see if it's going to be a good fit for both of us. And the 3 things I try to identify are the 3 Ps. It's personality. Do we like each other at some level? Hopefully enough. The second thing is participation. Are they going to participate in their own growth and prosperity? Because it's just like personal training. If you don't show up to the gym and put in the reps, the best personal trainer in the world can't do anything for you. It's the same thing for me. If I need to help you with XYZ and you don't show up, I can't help you. So I need that participation. And the last thing I look for with the clients is profit. Are we both going to make money together and grow well by being connected to each other? And if those things start to align, then my onboarding process is pretty unique, where I'm really delving into the mindset of who this person is and how they operate, and are they prepared to do certain things. And once those things align, I've really kind of removed all the possible negativity of like any issues they may have in terms of, like you said, any pitfalls, or if there's any, conflicts at all. I've before I even start working with them, I've already kind of weeded all that out. So I've really removed that from my business.
Okay. Now, as far as, I guess your focus, you talk about portfolio management and investments. Obviously, retirement planning is something that's important for a lot of people. And, I feel like it's something that maybe doesn't get enough attention. What are your thoughts kind of in that area?
Yep. Most people don't have the time, the interest, or the knowledge to be able to get in there. And most people want confidence, they want clarity, but they don't know where to go to get it. And so my whole thing is, even though I'm a financial planner and a wealth manager by trade, I'm more of a consultant and like a life advisor, helping people to understand emotional and behavioral finance and why they're making these decisions, because they weren't really taught how to make good financial decisions. Most people didn't have that leadership in front of them. And so I really come in as that consultant and that partner and say, hey, like, we got to start operating differently here and start thinking about things differently here, and rewarding them for their habits that they're building. Because the biggest thing with my clients is I don't want them waiting till they're 65 or 67 to enjoy their life. I want them to enjoy their life because time is a precious gift. I want them to enjoy it now, but then properly set them up for the future where they don't have to worry about money.
Awesome. Now, I guess what's some advice that you could offer to somebody who hasn't really, I guess, taken those first steps in either retirement planning or investments, or, let's go this way. If anybody listening right now is interested in really starting that, getting an investment portfolio, getting that whole process started, what would be some initial first steps that you would recommend?
Two things: get started immediately and find a fiduciary. The reason why you want to find a fiduciary is because someone who's a fiduciary has a legal obligation, and they've taken extra steps to provide to their clients that they are in complete alignment with their goals, and there's no conflict of interest. And so for me, in educating a client, identifying a fiduciary is pretty simple. Asking a financial planner if they take commissions or not at any level. If they say, yes, I take a commission for something, they are not a fiduciary. So finding the right person that's a fiduciary, that's a steward of money, that would treat your finances like their own, because that's how we're trained, is the first step. The second step is getting started immediately once you find that person that resonates with you, and starting today, starting to save money today, starting to be mindful of your overspending. So like looking at your bank statements, this is a little nugget for people, looking at your bank statements for the last couple of months and identifying your spending, cutting that spending on random crap that you don't need in half, and taking that half and breaking that up into 25 and 25%, 25% savings, 25% investments. That's a great start for most people. And it's a good way to control their cash flow, so they have more oxygen every month. But now you're putting money into savings. And then also now you're putting money into your future with your investments.
Now, obviously, without mentioning names, is there anybody who sticks out as like a specific success story that you're really proud of?
In terms of clients, I mean, I'm proud of them all at some level. Yeah. But the ones that come in with the most uncertainty and the most fear, based off of habits, based off of lack of information. As soon as you see that light bulb go on in someone's head, like, I can do this and I'm going to do really well at this. Those are like the best victories for me, in a sense, because you're watching someone personally like develop, and you're watching somebody change their life. So all of my clients at some level, I feel like, have those aha moments. But I think if I could go to one that I'm thinking about right now, there's a single mom, and she's been divorced for a while. She has a daughter, about 6 years old, and she was drowning in debt, and she was negative $900 a month cash flow. So like, she couldn't sustain that for too long. And through one conversation that we had together, it was about an hour and a half, so it was a little bit longer, but I was able to identify about 5 different things that she could do immediately without even costing her more money, and just making these pivots and adjustments through consolidating debt, through spending habits, through restructuring her custody agreement with her ex, husband. And immediately she went to a positive $400 a month. So she had like a $1,300 swing in one conversation every month cash flow without having to go start a side hustle, which we talked about and she's going to be doing, without having to go and get another job, without having to sell stuff on eBay, which all those things are great, but she didn't have to. She just had to change some habits. And for me, I felt like I was of service to her because she was able to change her life in one phone call.
Right now, as far as I guess some recommendations, like one person who I followed recently is Dave Ramsey. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, I love Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on his approach with the baby steps?
I'm glad you brought him up because my ex-wife and I have actually used his process, and we were able to pay out of $52,000 in debt in 8 months because of his debt snowball and his envelope system. So for those that don't know, the debt snowball is really interesting. There's a debt snowball and there's a debt avalanche. The reason why the debt snowball works, and this is actually in a book that I'm writing, I talk about this. The debt snowball works is because you start to see successes sooner. And whenever anyone's starting a new habit, they need to see wins early on to continue that habit. And so with the debt avalanche, it's actually more practical because you save more money, but it takes about like a year longer to see the win. And so like people aren't going to wait a year to see some sort of win. And so with Dave Ramsey, what he preaches and teaches is cash flow and no debt. He wants his clients having zero debt. And I'm of the same mindset. I teach my clients how to leverage debt in business, if it makes sense, but I don't have any debt personally. And I like to have a lot of my clients not have any debt either. And so what he does is, let's say you have 10 credit cards and there's X amount of money you owe on these credit cards. You pay the minimums on the 9 credit cards and then you overpay on the smallest amount credit card so that you can see that one get paid off. And then you take that win, you feel good about it. And then you take the extra money and you start applying that to the second lowest credit card that's owed. And what happens is you build this debt snowball that you start to snowball and you get more cash flow every month and more wins every month and you can pay off your debt. The second piece to that is the envelope system. And this is where it gets really rigid for people, but people need this structure to start. And so the envelope system is where you take all your monthly bills like groceries and gas and different things there, utilities, and you put cash in the envelope. And this can be hard for some people, but once you do it, it makes sense. And then you just only live on those envelopes. And what happens is you stop overspending. And so now you're paying down debt, keeping more money, and then you're also spending less on frivolous things, keeping more money. It's like this magic that my ex-wife and I did it together, and I can completely attest to its validity. It actually works really well.
Right. And yeah, I found the thing that was really impactful for me because before I heard of Dave Ramsey, I didn't really have a plan financially. The first step of having the emergency fund really came in handy for me last year when my dad passed away because he lived on the other side of Canada. So I had to fly out there, after when he had actually passed away. I had to drive my family back there, and there's 6 of us, so we weren't. It was, if I didn't have that in place, it would have made it very difficult for me at the time. But it got used for what it was for. It was an emergency, and we were able to pay our final respects, and yeah, it was really empowering having that process in place. So I think that's something for everybody listening too, that you need to establish an emergency fund. I think it's baby step 1. So it's definitely the most important element.
It's baby step 1, and thank God. So number 1, I'm sorry about your dad. I lost my dad almost 2 years ago, and I was the same thing. I had to fly up to Boston and take care of all the funeral arrangements, everything up there on my own. And I was in a position to do that, thank God. But most people, and statistics are interesting because some statistics are legit and some can be made to show whatever they want. But there's a statistic out there that says 67% of Americans do not have $1,000 in case of an emergency. And most emergencies, minor emergencies like a cracked tooth, going to the dentist, or something small, minor repair for the car goes out and you got to spend $400 or $500. It's really scary to know that 7 out of 10 people don't have that $1,000. And that's why it's super important, because once you get to that habit, it's the habit. I'm all about habit. So once you get to that $1,000 savings, well, now the next stop is X amount of money, and you've taught yourself how to do that. And you've given yourself the confidence and peace of mind practically with the $1,000 in the bank. So I completely agree. I think it's a great strategy. I teach a lot of my clients that aren't there how to do that. And there's a lot of Dave Ramsey's teachings that I kind of weave into what I do.
Awesome. Now, aside from the emergency fund, I think what do you think is another really impactful tip that you could share with people?
Stop spending more than you make. That's number one. You can make $1 million a year, but if you spend the million and one, you're broke. So it's really simple, but it's not simple. And most people have to curb their habits. They have to give themselves delayed gratification. Like it's like this, it's all emotional and behavioral. But the next step after the $1,000 is someone having 3 months of their break even on hand. So we were talking about the envelopes from Dave Ramsey and all your monthly bills, rent or mortgage, food, utilities, grocery, insurances, those staple things that you have to pay every month. You want to have at least, and takes some time, but you want to have at least 1 month, but ideally 3 months of that break even. So let's say it's $5,000 a month for you and the family. That could be low, that could be high, depending on your situation. You want to have $5,000 to $15,000 a month saved up in a cash liquid account. Number one, a free account. Number two, in a bank that you can access immediately. Number three, with someone that can help you in the bank if you have questions. So a lot of community banks and local banks are really good on customer service because they care about you more versus the bigger banks like a Wells Fargo or Bank of America that don't really care about you. So you want to have that $5,000 to $15,000 in that example saved up in a cash account for a rainy day, especially if a spouse loses an income, if a pandemic were to happen, it's good to have 5 to 15 grand on hand if you need it. And then from there, once you get to the 3 months of break even, now you start diversifying and using your money to either pay off debt or invest more or go do something you want to do, because you do have to reward yourself. So you have to build in these goals once you hit these checkpoints.
Absolutely. Now, something that you alluded to earlier was some statistics, and I'm just wondering, because I'm kind of a nerd for numbers. Do you have,
for sure.
Do you have any statistics that you could share that kind of could put things in perspective for people?
Yeah, so that big one, that 7 out of 10 people don't have $1,000 for an emergency. The world's wealth is controlled by 1% of people. 1% of people have $700,000 or more net worth. So it goes to show you that these aren't astronomical numbers. Like once you hit $700,000, and it's a lot of money for a lot of people. I get it. I'm not downplaying that at all. But if you think about the word wealth and you think about wealthy, you think about multi-millionaires, big homes, cars, living the life. But as soon as you have $700,000 net worth, meaning you have $700,000 more assets than you do debt, so that's basically the number, you're in the top 1% in the world. This is the world. So this includes all countries, and that, in the United States, it's probably multi-million dollars. But if you can start planning now, that's the whole point when you ask me, what should people be doing, is get started today, get started now. Get started as little as you can in terms of the habits that you're building weekly and monthly, setting aside X amount of money that you can afford for your savings, X amount of money you can afford for your investing, and get started. But again, statistics are those, there's a lot of statistics that are real, that are concrete, but then there's a lot that are made to show different things. And, even and there's a good piece of advice for people. I used to sell mutual funds. Mutual funds are a lot of how 401ks are built. They're a lot of how independent IRAs and individual retirement accounts are built. But there's so much that they promote and they say they're so great. But when you go into the detail, and they have this thing called a prospectus, and it's anywhere from 50 to 100 pages long, and it talks about the fund and the management of the fund and the fees of the fund. There's fees and fees and fees and fees and fees on top of fees, that if you see this mutual fund that's making 10% a year, you're like, oh, that's great. But then you realize you're negative, because you're paying a fund manager, you're paying a 12B1 fee, you're paying advertising costs. You really got to think for yourself and really go to someone that you can trust. And that person usually is a fiduciary. And I keep going back to that, but yeah, that's where I would leave that.
All right. Now, another thing I want to bring up is something that you're obviously passionate about, is the whole idea of the side hustle.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously it's important, if you want to have some financial freedom, there's some financial stability to have, multiple streams of revenue. So
yep.
What would you say because obviously everybody has things that they're interested in, and, a lot of those things could make them money. What's your advice on starting a side hustle?
So I'll go back to a statistic just for you, because you made me think of one, now that we're talking about it, but most millionaires have 5 to 7 secondary incomes. So they have a primary income, but they have 5 to 7 total streams of money coming in, and you have to stop trading time for money if you want to be independent. Right. And it's just, Warren Buffett says that he's if you only have one stream of income, you'll work until you die. And so you have to figure out, the mindset is you have to figure out a way to get other money coming in without you trading time for money after a while. Yes, it takes time for you to set this up. It takes time for you to build this. It takes time for you to scale this. But once you get to a certain point, there's a very light management. It's not set it and forget it, because you don't want to forget about it altogether, but ways that you can do this. So arbitrage is a really great way to do this. So you could buy something low and sell it high. You could do the Gary V method, go to the dollar store, buy a bunch of stuff for $1, turn around and sell it for 5, 10, whatever. Another really cool thing I just heard about someone doing recently is they get books from people for free. So they'll ask their friends and family members for books that, look at all the books you have behind you, right? So people say, hey, listen, Brian, if you have any books that you're not touching or that, you're done and I can have them, like, if you can give them to me, that'd be great. And like most people, if they're your friends, they might give you the books. But I know there's people that are selling for 40, 50, 60, 70 bucks a pop. They're getting free books. It's crazy. So you just get 10 books, even if it's 20 bucks a book, let's just say on average, and someone just gives you 10 books and you sell them for 20 bucks a pop. That's 200 bucks.
Yeah.
200 bucks. Like, and you do that enough times. If you did that 5 times a month at 200 bucks, that's $1,000 a month. You know what $12,000 a year would do to someone like that needs that money? And how they could, like, what they can then do with the 12,000 bucks,
yeah,
and then take that 12,000 bucks and put it into the market or put it into their business, or most importantly, and this is going to be contrary for like, this is why I love being a financial advisor, because I'm the rebel of the group. Invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Like, take that 12,000 bucks and invest in yourself, whether that's conferences, whether that's coaching and mentorship. It's really about what you do with the money more than the money itself. But I would say arbitrage, number one, take something low, sell it higher. Do it through the internet. The internet can do all the work for you. You just got to actually get this product. Or the book situation where you get books for free and you can sell them for money. Those are really 2 good places to start. And there's 1,000 other ideas on top of that.
Awesome. Now, as far as the arbitrage, I'm just going to share a couple of examples how we've done that. And the books behind me, actually, most of these, I'd say probably 95% of them I've got from the secondhand stores, right? Like people, like some of them still had the receipt in them because they've never been opened. I have one, a John Maxwell book here that's actually signed. And I know that like the person never opened it. So, bargain hunting is one thing. I could easily sell these, but I love reading. I love books. But as far as arbitrage, my wife started doing this recently, and I really pushed her to start doing this. She does a lot of like discount shopping. She'll find things, and she started reselling them. She felt really apprehensive about selling them to people for more money than she paid for them. I'm like, well, you're taking the time. You're obviously offering a product that somebody wants. So
yep.
There was one day specifically where she made a profit of $900 in a couple of hours. Right? She bought 2 swing sets for each for $150, sold each one for $600. Right? So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was so a couple hours. She posted on a Facebook marketplace and sold them very quickly.
That's the easiest point of entry for most people, I'd say. And it takes time, and your time is valuable. Your time is worth money. And that's the flip that people have to make in their mind. And so me going from, I've been in the sales world a lot in my life, and there's a lot of commissions involved in that. And so you're trading time for money. You're trading what you're doing to receive something. And so when I made the flip to 100% a consultant, where I wasn't selling products or services anymore, I'm selling my time. I'm selling my experience and my expertise that I've built over the years. And there's value in that. And so people have to really make that leap in their mind of saying, hey, I know the common way to do this is trade time for money. But once I make this, it's an entrepreneurial leap. And once you make that leap, you really do realize the value of your time, and you start protecting it more, and you start charging more for it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. It's funny. Actually, it's kind of the conversation we had the other day where, you build up that expertise, and yeah, that's why sometimes you have a consultant who comes in, spends a minimal amount of time, but you have to pay them a lot of money because it took them time to acquire that knowledge.
You're paying for the time they put in to get to that point where they're that good. So if it takes them an hour to do something that you could probably not do yourself, and if you did it, it wouldn't be nearly as good. They've put the 10,000 hours in before that they can charge you the X amount of money that it costs to do that. So that's where the price comes in. It's not what the hour it took them to do it. It's the 10,000 hours that got them to be able to do it that well, that fast.
Right. Actually, I'll give an example of this as well. A couple of years ago, we had to change the liner in our old pool. And, my wife wanted to save the money. So she's like, okay, you're going to figure this out. You're going to put the liner in, if you can't do it yourself, I'll get my brother to come help. I think I wasted like 2 weekends trying to get this stupid liner into the pool. And
it's not easy.
Yeah, I was not happy. It was it was a hot topic. It's still kind of a sensitive topic in our marriage, but when I finally got this done, my brother-in-law came over and helped me get it on. And then, we ended up actually having a leak in the liner. We had to end up replacing the whole pool the next year. But if I would have just spent a couple $100, I would have saved myself 2 weekends, and, even trading time for money. I would have made more than, what that actually cost me.
Right. Spending that time with family, spending that time on self-development, spending that time on business. And, one thing I could say is, when you pay an expert, especially as a fiduciary wealth manager, you're paying them to optimize your life. Number one, whatever your goals are, your happiness is the most important thing. And that's how I serve my clients is helping them become more happy. But you do it because you're showing them how to keep or make more money. But the biggest thing, tying back to what you said, is you're showing them how to screw up less. And you're showing them how to save hundreds of thousands of dollars from a mistake they can make, thinking they can do it on their own. Just because the information's out there and because there's people that can get, you need to get an expert that knows what they're doing so it doesn't cost you time or money.
Absolutely. Now, another thing I want to ask you about as well is the book. You were talking about the book that you're working on. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I got a couple working titles, haven't figured it out yet. It's about 60% of the way done. The premise is how to become wealthy happily. And so, people lose the vision because if they're just chasing money alone, they're going to find money's not going to make them happy. No amount of money can buy you love. No amount of money, it could buy you nice stuff and put you around people, but those people even really care about you. You don't know. And so how to become wealthy happily is this play on words where, yes, I will teach you how to become wealthy, but I'm going to teach you how to remain and become even happier by doing it.
Right.
And so it starts off, it's part biography. It's part, the things that I've been through and how I'm able to lead and serve people because of that. But it's also mindset. So as you see the picture behind me, mindset is a big thing for me. Because I've been able to really tap into it over the years. It's really helped me become who I am. And so when the book starts out, it talks about the concept and mindset of memento mori. And memento mori means know that you're mortal, know that you're going to die. It's an old Stoic term from Greek antiquity and Roman antiquity. But basically it says, know that you're mortal, know that you're going to die. Let that be the muse and inspiration to how you show up in the world every day and how you serve other people in the world every day. Because if today was your last day, how would you have served and shown up in the world? You'd want to be the best of the best. Right. And this is something that takes time. And this is something that I'm not perfect at every day, but I always think about it because I have experienced tragedy and I have experienced loss. It's taught me the value of time. So when I start the book off, I talk about the value of time and getting started with your planning today, getting started with your investing today. And then it goes into emotional and behavioral finance and how to do different things there. And then it talks about the 10 steps. If you do these 10 things, you will become wealthy sooner than later. So it's a practical utilitarian, it's inspirational, part biography, but it's about 60% of the way done.
Awesome. Now, other than the book, what can we expect to see from you in the coming months?
Oh my goodness, man. So life's been really great for me. Yeah. I'm very lucky and blessed to be here. Number one, I know I shouldn't be, and I'm very lucky that I am. So I'm trying to make the most of every day. But, I've been really big into doing podcasts, either my podcast or being on other podcasts this year. So there's a lot of that going around. I had a 200-person conference planned back in May. I started it in January. So I started planning for this in January to have it in May. So before Corona hit, before we knew we were going to be kind of locked down, I started this thing called Revolution ATL. And Revolution is a play because the way that it's built there's an R with parentheses around it and then evolution's bigger. So it's all about evolution, but you need a revolution to change kind of thing is the mentality of it. Right. And it's basically a meeting and gathering of amazing human beings that want to lead and show up better in the world. And so I have a list of 10 speakers. One of them, Jordan Mendoza. Oh, yeah. Jordan was going to be there talking about his stuff. Another great podcaster, great friend of ours. But I had 10 amazing human beings from professional athletes to some of the top CEOs in the world, insane people that were going to come and share their journey, their story, and be a part of this huge thing where we have 200 people that came to this conference. And now we have to probably wait till next year to do it, but we'll see. So 200 people coming to this conference because I believe in learning and growing, and I believe in networking and connecting with people. And there's all these conferences around the world, like Tony Robbins and Gary Vee and Grant Cardone, and they're everywhere, but there's nothing really in Atlanta. As awesome as Atlanta is, there was nothing like this locally. So I was like, you know what? I'll throw one. I'll put one on. So we're going to do 200 people. We're going to have a general networking, this amazing kind of, setup. But then we're going to also have these little breakout sessions for VIP where we take 40 or 50 people from the 200 and we move into these breakout rooms where they're talking one-on-one in these roundtable kind of fireside chats with guys like John Malott or Michael Coles, who started Great American Cookies back in the day, these amazing human beings, Randy Curran, football player, Jordan Mendoza, these great human beings. They're going to add a ton of value. And then we're going to take them to a VIP dinner later in the night there's the Atlanta Braves play right outside my office. and, just make a time of it and build these amazing connections. So that's something to look forward to outside of the book. Other things that I'm looking forward to for myself is I'm a little bit weird, and I'm into spirituality big time. And so I'm going to be going to Peru as soon as I can to go on a sacred plant medicine journey. And what that is sitting with these indigenous plants that have been around for thousands of years that are teacher plants. And they teach you things about God and about yourself and about ego and about life, and sitting with a shaman to walk us through that process. And so there's a group of 10 executives that are going to be going out to Peru as soon as we can to sit with these sacred plant medicines. And so that's another thing I'm looking forward to. And then outside of that, man, just my health and wellness is big. I'm really big into running. I'm big into martial arts. I'm big into training and being prepared for anything. But I'm also big into teaching my kids. I have 2 amazing boys, how to be of the same mindset. So I've got a lot going on, but I'm excited about all of it.
Awesome. And the one thing that it's funny, I'd be remiss not to mention it, but we didn't even talk about the podcast.
Yeah, man. So the podcast, there's 2 of them. The one that's been going on for 2 years now is called the Jesse T Show. The Jesse T Show was born of this idea where there's amazing people with these amazing stories that I wanted to shine a light on. And so I'll meet with entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, creators. You've been on the show. Thank you. And it's basically your story, your journey, and what you've overcome and what you've built. And there's a lot of people that have a hero's journey. Most people have a story to share. And so people talk about some really interesting stuff. I mean, I've had women talk about overcoming sexual abuse and being raped. I've had other people talk about overcoming attempted suicide. I've had people talk about overcoming being disabled and going on to set world records in cycling. Like, there's some incredible mindset pieces in there. Again, like, that's a huge thing for me. And it's all about people sharing their journey so that those that want to level up in those areas of life, business, relationships, health and wellness, whatever it is, we have an expert for everyone to be able to come in and learn. So that's the Jesse T Show. The other podcast I'm working on right now is it's a tentative title. It's called Jay and Jesse's Soup Sandwich, because it's just a complete cluster of politics and conspiracy theories and what's going on in the world that I really don't talk about on my podcast, but that's coming out too. So I'm really big into those worlds.
Cool. Now, is there anything that you want to talk about that I didn't ask you about to this point?
I would just tell people a couple things. Work on yourself so that you can show up better in the world. Identify areas of life that you know that you need help with. Try to find a mentor or coach that inspires you, that resonates with you, but more importantly, has done what you want to do and has done it at a great level. Some of my secrets to success, whether they're direct coaches and mentors or people that I seek out like David Goggins or Jesse Itzler, or some people that are just out there in the ether. Find people that have done what you want to do and align with those people. And if you can align with them personally, one-on-one, great. And if not, go get an audiobook, go to Google, go to YouTube University, whatever you got to do. I would say just find those people to be your tribe and grow with, so that you can turn around and create your own tribe, or you can turn around and help those other people that need help.
Awesome. Now, as we wrap up, what are the best ways to get in touch with you? How do we connect with Jesse T?
The bat signal, put it up in the air. If I had a butler, I'd be Batman. So maybe another $1 billion. So, but no, it's just all joking aside. So the best way to get in touch with me, we can have a link tree maybe somewhere that has all my stuff in there, but basically it's, on Instagram, it's at Jesse_T, which is a family nickname, T-E-E. So at JESSE_T-T-E-E. You can also find my podcast on anywhere podcasts can be found, or even on YouTube. It's The Jesse T Show, same spelling. So JESSE-TEE, so The Jesse T Show. And then also for business, you can find me at the numbers 46, the word and, the number 2, wealthpartners.com. So it's 46 and 2 wealthpartners.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Jesse. I appreciate it. And I'm sure there was a lot of useful information for the audience as well.
Brian, it's been a beautiful time and just connecting with you overall. It's been beautiful to be on your podcast, and I look forward to future conversations, brother. Thank you so much.
And this concludes another episode of the Healthcare Security Cast. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. We've been downloaded over 4,500 times in 44 countries across the globe. Join us again tomorrow when we have a very special guest for our 50th episode. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on social media. You can connect with the Healthcare Security Cast or myself directly. Again, my name is Brian, B-R-I-N-E, Hamilton. You can connect with me and the podcast through LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Again, I'm the only Brian Hamilton on any of these platforms, so I'm relatively easy to find. Thank you again for listening, and until next time, stay safe and take care.